Greetings. Welcome to today's panel discussion on Bhutan's trade, trends and patterns, and theoretical perspective. Today, we will be looking into the latest data on Bhutan's export and imports, how our trade has evolved, and how classical and modern trade theories have explained these dynamics. I'm pleased to be joined by our three professional panelists. Firstly, Mr. Bumpa, Mr. Tarje, and Mr. Rishi. We all know that trade plays a crucial role in economic development of nations by enabling the exchange of goods, services, and technology. For some small and developing economies, international trade is especially vital in accessing resources not available domestically and in earning foreign exchange through exports. Now, let's start with basics. Mr. Bumpa, can you give us a quick overview of Bhutan's trade composition?
Thank you, Mr. Sonam, for the question. Bhutan trade is heavily shaped by its geography, resource base, and economic structure. India remains Bhutan's dominant trading partner, accounting for the majority of both import and export, particularly in energy, construction material, and essential goods. Bhutan also maintains growing trade relations with countries like China, Bangladesh, Singapore, and Nepal. Its major exports include hydropower, ferrosilicons, and minerals, while key imports are vehicles, machinery, petroleum products, and electronics. Although Bhutan maintains a trade deficit, efforts are underway to diversify export, enhance trade facilitation, and build resilience through bilateral and regional agreements.
Thank you, Mr. Bumpa. That's a great overview of trade composition. Now, Mr. Darje, can you give us a quick overview of Bhutan's current trade trends?
Bhutan trade remains structurally import heavy with a consistent trade deficit. In 2023, for example, Bhutan total export were valued at around US dollar 795 million, while imports reached approximately 1.4 billion. The primary export remains hydropower, especially to India, alongside ferrosilicon, cement, base materials. On the import side, we heavily depend on petroleum products, vehicles, construction materials, and consumer electronics. Most of these goods are imported from India, Thailand, China, and Singapore.
Thank you, Mr. Darje. Now, to connect with trade patterns, Mr. Rishi, what patterns do you see over time? Any shifts or consistencies?
Great question. Trade with India remains constant following the gravity model, large economy, close proximity. However, we are also seeing diversification, especially in export to Bangladesh and trade-related companies from Singapore and China. Over the time, the trade gap has widened due to the rising demand for the fuel and technology which Bhutan doesn't produce domestically. To develop deeper, I would like to explain with the help of chart. The graph shows total export in USD million from 2019 to 2024. Export started at 674 million in 2019, dropped slightly in 2020, then rose sharply to 784 million in 2021. A dip followed in 2022, but export increased again in 2023 and reached a peak of 860 million in 2024. Despite some fluctuations, the overall trend is upward, indicating steady growth over a time. This graph shows total import in USD million from 2019 to 2024 with both actual figures and a linear trend. Import dropped from 981 million in 2019 to 899 million in 2020, likely due to the pandemic. They then rose sharply to a peak of 1.51 million in 2022 before declining slightly to 1.4 million in 2023 and a projected 1.27 million in 2024. Despite fluctuations, the overall trend indicates a gradual increase in imports over a time.
Thank you, Mr. Rishi, for your great answer and comprehensive analysis. Now, let's connect this concept to theory. I would like to ask Mr. Darje, how do you apply absolute advantage to Bhutan?
Of course, Mr. Sonam. Absolute advantage refers to a country's ability to produce goods more efficiently than others using the same resources. Bhutan clearly holds an offset advantage in hydropower production, thanks to our natural geography, steppe rivers, and mountainous terrain. We can generate electricity more deeply and in surplus compared to many other countries. This is why electricity remains our top export, particularly to India. Bhutan also shows relative efficiency in producing ferrosilicon due to access to clean energy and minerals. Bhutan also shows relative efficiency in producing ferrosilicon due to access to clean energy and minerals resources, giving us a cost edge in certain industrial goods.
Thank you, Mr. Darji. Now, I would like to ask Mr. Bumpa, how would you apply comparative advantage to our country, Bhutan?
Thank you for the question. Comparative advantage is about producing good at a lower opportunity cost with compared to the other nations. Even if Bhutan is not the most efficient producer of everything, it makes economic sense to specialize in what we can produce most efficiently relative to other goods. For example, while we may not have the labor force or capital to produce electronics or garments competitively, we do have a comparative advantage in clean energy, cement, and mineral. By focusing on this sector and trading for others, like vehicles and fuel, we improve overall economic efficiency. This principle justifies why Bhutan imports most manufacturing goods but continues to export resource-based products.
That was a great answer, Mr. Bumpa. Now, I would like to ask Mr. Rishi, how does the Hexer Olin theory apply in our context?
Great question, Mr. Sonam. The history origin theory suggests that countries export goods that use their abundant and relatively cheaper factors of production while importing goods that require factors they lack. In Bhutan's case, our most abundant resources is natural capital, especially water for hydropower and minerals like limestone and quartz, which directly aligns with our export composition, hydropower, ferrosilicon, and construction grade cement. From 2019 to 2024, Bhutan constantly exported these goods, especially to India and Bangladesh, reflecting our factor endowment-based comparative advantage. Bhutan lacks large-scale skilled laborers and industrial capital, which explains how heavy imports of machinery, vehicles, petroleum products, and technology from countries like India, China, and Singapore. The constant trade deficit we observed, where import grew from around 981 million in 2019 to over 1.4 billion in 2023, also reflects a reliance on capital-intensive imports. So the history-origin model offers a strong theoretical to understand how Bhutan's trade flows are shaped not just by demand but by the fundamental structure of a factory environment.
Thank you, Mr. Rishi, for a wonderful answer. Now, let's turn to a more unexpected theory, that is Leontief paradox. I will relate paradox theory to Bhutan's trade experience. Leontief paradox challenges the Heckscher-Ohlin theory by showing that the US, a capital-abundant country, was exporting labor-intensive goods and importing capital-intensive ones, which went against the expected pattern. When we apply this to Bhutan, we find that Bhutan does not exhibit a Leontief paradox. Instead, Bhutan's trade behavior strongly aligns the expectation of Heckscher-Ohlin theory. Bhutan exports resources based and capital using goods like hydropower and ferrosilicon, which leverage its abundant natural resources, and imports capital and technology intensive goods such as vehicle, industrial machinery, and electronics from countries like India, China, and Singapore, which have more developed capital markets and industrial capacity. In other words, Bhutan trade flows match its capital endowments. We export what we have in abundance and import what we lack. So, in the case of Bhutan, Leontief paradox doesn't apply. In fact, our trade data from 2019 to 2024 reaffirms the conventional factor-based trade theories rather than contradicting them. That's all about the modern theory. Now, to wrap up one final round, what's one policy or action Bhutan should consider to strengthen its trade position?
From my opinion, Bhutan should consider a policy called enhancing value-added process for exports, turning minerals into finished goods.
From my point of view, Bhutan must invest in logistic and digital infrastructure to boost the trade efficiency.
Britain should broaden trade agreement between SAARC, especially with East and Southeast.
Excellent insights. Thank you, Mr. Bumpa, Darje, and Ishe, for your wonderful insights. It's clear that Bhutan's trade is evolving in line with classical and modern economic theories. The challenge now is to leverage our strengths while reducing dependency. That's all for today. Thank you, and see you at next session.